The stars stretched endless in the dark space. Far from trade routes and safe stations, a human ship drifted with broken engines. The vessel had tried to jump through a damaged gate, but the power coils failed and tore the hull apart. Pieces of metal floated around like frozen sparks. Most of the crew had already gone silent, their signals lost to the void. Only one weak signal remained, buried deep inside a cracked escape pod. A small alien patrol ship passed near the wreck. It belonged to the Norrin, a race known for order and discipline. Their leader was Ral, a calm officer with sharp eyes and a sense of duty. The patrol had no mission to save strangers. They were supposed to check the border and report back to command. But when the scanners picked up the faint human distress call, Ral hesitated. "Leave it," one of his crew said. "It is not our fight. Command will say the same." But Ral did not move on. He looked again at the screen, watching the weak pulse of life inside the ruined pod. The human was close to death, yet still alive. For a long moment, Ral thought about the rules, about his orders, and about the endless silence of space. Then he made his choice. "Bring the pod aboard," Ral ordered. The crew looked at each other but obeyed. Grapples reached out and pulled the pod inside. The hull hissed as air returned, and the door was forced open. Inside lay a human, pale and still, his suit torn at the shoulder. His breath was shallow, but he lived. Ral stepped closer. The human's eyes opened just a little. They were clouded with pain but also filled with something else. Not fear, not anger, but hope. With the last of his strength, the human whispered a broken word. "Help." Ral nodded once. "You will have it." The alien crew placed the human in the med chamber. The machines scanned his wounds and began to heal. His body was weaker than most species, yet the medical report showed unusual endurance. Even with blood loss, even with freezing cold from the pod, his heart still fought to keep him alive. Hours passed. The human rested, drifting between sleep and waking. Ral visited often, standing near the glass of the chamber. He studied the man with quiet thought. When the human woke again, he tried to sit up, but his body trembled. Ral helped him rest back. "Do not force yourself," Ral said. The man's voice was rough. "Name?" "Tom." Ral repeated the word slowly. "Tom. I am Ral." The man gave a weak smile. "Thank you." For the alien crew, it was a strange moment. They had always been told humans were fragile and unimportant, just another minor species in the vast galaxy. Yet here was one, broken but alive, still holding gratitude even in pain. In the following days, Tom began to recover. His body healed faster than expected, and he asked many questions about the ship. He wanted to help, even when his strength was not enough. He tried to lift crates, carry tools, and learn the Norrin language. The crew first laughed at his clumsy words, but soon they began to teach him. They saw he did not give up. One evening, Ral found Tom in the mess hall. The human sat alone, looking at the stars through the wide glass window. His eyes were filled with both wonder and sorrow. "You miss your people," Ral said. Tom nodded slowly. "Ship, gone. Friends, gone. Only me." His voice was soft, but his hands clenched with silent strength. Ral sat beside him. "You are not only you. You are here now. And we will not let you fall." Tom looked at him, surprised by the kindness. In that moment, a bond began to form. It was not only about rescue. It was about respect. Tom knew he was alive because Ral had broken rules for him. And Ral knew this one human might mean more than the orders of command. The crew began to see Tom differently. He was not just a fragile survivor. He was a spark of something larger, something hidden deep in the human spirit. The galaxy had ignored humans, but Ral now wondered if that was a mistake. As the patrol ship continued its route, carrying one human among them, no one knew what future would rise from this small choice. A simple act of mercy had been made. A single life had been saved. Yet in the silence of space, this rescue was the beginning of a story that would one day change the fate of all humanity. The Norran patrol ship moved steadily through the stars, its silver hull gliding across the darkness. Days passed since Tom had been rescued, and slowly he began to walk without help. His body was not yet strong, but his will was sharp. Each day he tried to do more than the last, even when his muscles trembled. The alien crew often watched him with quiet curiosity. They had seen many species before, but humans were rarely spoken of with respect. Most thought of them as a weak people, a minor branch of life in the galaxy. But Tom began to change those thoughts. One morning, Ral found Tom lifting heavy parts in the hangar. His arms shook, sweat ran down his face, yet he refused to stop. Two Norran workers stood nearby. "He will hurt himself," one said. "His body is not built for this." Ral shook his head. "Wait. Look at him." Tom's hands gripped the crate, his legs bent, and with a loud effort, he lifted it onto the platform. He nearly fell, but when he caught his breath, he smiled. "Done," he said in broken Norran speech. The workers stared in silence. They had not expected him to finish the task. Ral gave a small nod of approval. Later, during training, Tom asked to join the crew in endurance drills. At first, they laughed. The drills were designed for Norran strength, not humans. But Tom insisted. He ran with them, his steps slower but steady. When his lungs burned, he did not stop. When his legs ached, he kept moving. By the end, he was drenched in sweat, but he stood tall. One of the younger crew members whispered, "He should not be able to last that long." Ral replied, "That is his strength. Not speed. Not power. Endurance." It was not just his body. Tom's spirit seemed unbreakable. Even when he failed, he tried again. When the med chamber reported he should rest, he still asked to help. He cleaned the decks, carried tools, and listened to every word the crew said, eager to learn their ways. In the evenings, he would sit with the crew in the mess hall. His Norran words were broken, yet his meaning was clear. He joked clumsily, and soon even the strictest officers began to smile. The walls of distance between human and alien started to fall. One night, during a quiet meal, Tom asked a question. "Why, save me?" His eyes looked at Ral. Ral answered simply, "Because you were alive." Tom thought for a moment, then nodded. "I live, now I fight. For you too." It was a promise, and though his voice was weak, his eyes were steady. The next day, a test came. A leak broke out in the engine bay. Toxic fumes spread quickly, and alarms rang. The crew rushed to seal the breach, but one worker collapsed near the gas line. None could reach him without gear. Before Ral gave the order, Tom grabbed a mask and ran inside. His suit was not built for Norran toxins, but he did not hesitate. Through the thick air, Tom dragged the fallen worker back. The fumes burned his throat and skin, but he held on until the door shut and clean air filled the bay. Tom coughed hard, his face pale, but he smiled weakly. Safe, he said, pointing to the worker. The crew looked at him with new eyes. This human, small compared to them, had risked himself without question. Raoul placed a hand on his shoulder. You could have died. Tom answered, still coughing, better me, than him. From that day, the crew no longer called him weak. They spoke of his courage, his stubborn will, and his strange human way of never giving up. The younger members followed him with respect, while the older ones began to trust him like one of their own. Raoul himself thought deeply. He had seen many soldiers, many allies, many races. Few carried such a fire. Humans might look fragile, but there was something hidden inside them, something stronger than steel. That evening, Tom sat by the window again, looking out at the stars. Raoul joined him. You have surprised my crew, Raoul said. Tom gave a tired laugh. Not surprise. Just, human. Raoul studied him. If all humans are like you, then the galaxy does not see the truth. Tom turned his eyes back to the stars. Maybe, one day, they will. The silence stretched between them, filled not with distance but with understanding. Raoul knew then that the choice to save Tom had been more than an act of mercy. It was the beginning of something greater. The Norran patrol carried on through space, but the ship no longer felt the same. A human lived among them, and his strength was not in muscle or weapons, but in spirit. The crew had begun to learn that sometimes the smallest flame can burn the brightest in the darkest night. The patrol ship sailed on through the silent dark. By now Tom was more than a rescued stranger. He had become a part of the Norran crew. He helped where he could, trained with them, and even joined their meals with laughter that warmed the cold metal halls. Yet there was always a weight behind his smile. One evening, after drills, Tom sat with the crew in the mess hall. The room hummed with low voices and clinking cups. The Norran shared stories of battles, patrols, and stations far across the galaxy. When they finished, they looked at Tom. You sit silent, one worker said. Do humans not tell stories? Tom looked down for a moment, then raised his eyes. I tell. About home. The crew leaned closer. Most had never seen Earth. For them, humans were just a small race on a small world. But Tom's voice carried something that drew them in. Earth, he began slowly in broken Norran speech, is full of life. Water, big water, cover much of land. Waves rise like mountains, fall like thunder. Sky wide, blue, with clouds like ships of white. Forests stretch far, full of green, full of sound. He closed his eyes, trying to recall the smell of rain and the warmth of the sun in morning. Light comes soft, slow, then bright. At night, stars cover sky, same stars we see now. The Norran listened in silence. They had traveled across many systems, yet few worlds sounded like this. A young officer asked, Your world, is it strong? Tom gave a faint smile. Strong, yes. But not easy. Storms break cities. Cold freezes land. Heat burns. Still, people live. We fight, we build again. Always again. Raoul, standing nearby, studied Tom carefully. The way he spoke was not just memory, but love. It was clear that Earth was more than a planet. It was a home worth guarding. The next day, in the training hall, one of the crew asked, Human, why fight so hard when you are far from your people? Tom's answer was simple. Because I must return. Because they wait. His words spread like quiet fire through the ship. The crew began to whisper among themselves. If one human carried such devotion to his world, what would the rest of them be like? Perhaps humans were not weak as the galaxy believed. Perhaps they had something hidden, something the empires had overlooked. That night, Ral called Tom to the command deck. The stars filled the wide window, and the controls glowed faintly. "Tell me more of Earth," Ral said. Tom spoke slowly, painting pictures with plain words. He told of high mountains covered with snow, rivers that carved through stone, deserts of sand where the wind sang, and cities full of noise and light. He spoke of children running, of families working, of people dreaming. Ral listened without breaking his gaze. He had seen countless worlds, many stronger, richer, more powerful. Yet none sounded as alive as Earth. "You love your world," Ral said at last. Tom nodded. "Yes. Earth is hard. Even broken, we rise. Even weak, we stand." The words stayed with Ral long after Tom left the deck. He thought about the galaxy, about the empires that measured power only in fleets and armies. They did not see value in a small world like Earth. Yet Ral began to wonder if they were blind to something greater. Days later, a trade ship crossed their path. News came aboard with the cargo. The crew gathered in the mess hall as the trader spoke of events across the stars. Among the words was one that struck Tom like a blade. The rival empire, powerful and cruel, had begun to look toward Earth. Whispers said they saw humans as easy to take, a people too small to resist. Tom froze, his hands gripping the table. His face lost color, but his eyes blazed with sudden fire. "No," he said firmly. "Not Earth. Not my people." The crew shifted uneasily. They had no orders to fight for humans. Earth was far outside their duty. Yet the thought of the small blue world, filled with oceans and forests, facing conquest, unsettled them. Ral watched Tom closely. In that moment, he saw not a fragile survivor but a man willing to fight the galaxy for his home. After the trader left, Tom walked to the window, staring out at the endless dark. His voice was low but steady. "They must not take Earth. I beg you, Ral. Help us." Ral said nothing at first. He was bound by rules, by orders, by the weight of his command. Yet his heart remembered the day he had chosen to save one human. If that one life had been worth the risk, then what of an entire world? He placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "I will think. But know this, Tom. Your people may be more important than the galaxy believes." Tom looked at him, eyes burning with hope. "One day, Ral, you will see. Humans fight for more than life. We fight for home." In the silence of the command deck, the words settled deep. A seed had been planted. The story of Earth was no longer just Tom's memory. It was becoming a call that none of the Norran crew could ignore. The patrol ship drifted near a quiet border system when the warning came. A coded signal, sharp and urgent, reached Ral's command deck. At first, the crew thought it was a mistake. The message carried a name most of them had never cared about. It said one thing clear: Earth is in danger. The rival empire had begun moving fleets toward the human home world. Official news called it only an inspection, but whispers told the truth. The empire planned to take Earth, strip its resources, and make its people servants. Few in the galaxy cared. For most, humans were weak, scattered, unimportant. Tom stood frozen as the words sank in. His hands tightened into fists, and his jaw shook. "No," he whispered, his voice rough. "They cannot, they must not." Ral dismissed the crew and faced him alone. "You heard the signal. It is not confirmed. Perhaps rumor." Tom's eyes flared. "I know it is true. They will come. They always come for those who look weak. But Earth is not weak. Please, Ral. You must help." Ral folded his arms, silent for a moment. He remembered the day he had saved Tom from the broken pod. That choice had felt simple then. Now the weight was far greater. To fight for one human was defiance. To fight for all of them was rebellion. "My duty is to my command," Ral said at last. "The Norran Council will not send fleets for your world." Tom stepped closer. His voice was steady but fierce. "Then forget command. Remember me. You saved one human when all others turned away. If one life was worth saving, then why not all?" Ral's heart shifted at those words. Tom was right. His act of mercy had already broken rules. Now the question was not whether to act, but how far he was willing to go. The next days were restless. The crew whispered in halls. Some feared the Empire's strength. Others remembered Tom's courage in the engine bay, his endurance during training, his stories of Earth. Slowly, doubt grew in their minds. Finally, during a gathering in the mess hall, one young officer spoke aloud. "If the Empire takes Earth, what then? Will we stand aside while they crush another people?" Another answered, "Humans are not ours to defend." But the first replied, "And yet one is here, and he is one of us." Tom sat silently, watching the debate. His heart pounded. He knew the choice was not his to make. It was theirs. Ral raised his hand for silence. His eyes swept the crew. "We are soldiers. Our orders are to patrol, not to fight wars not our own. But there are times when orders are not enough. I ask you, if Earth calls for help, will you answer?" The hall grew quiet. Then, one by one, voices spoke. "Yes. Yes. Yes." The decision was made. That night, Tom stood on the command deck beside Ral. Stars burned outside like cold fires. Tom's voice was soft but strong. "You will not regret this." Ral looked at him. "I already broke command for you once. Now I break it again. Tell me, Tom, why is your world worth such risk?" Tom closed his eyes, then opened them with fire. "Because Earth is more than land or sky. It is people who rise again and again. We are not strong like your kind. We do not live long like others. But we fight for each other, for home, for tomorrow. That is why Earth must stand." Ral studied him for a long time. At last, he nodded. "Then we fight with you." The next steps were dangerous. They could not face the Empire alone. Ral sent coded calls to old friends, captains who had once questioned the Empire's rule. In hidden channels, he shared Tom's story. He told them of a human who survived against odds, who risked his life for others, who spoke of a world full of life worth saving. At first, many doubted. Why risk fleets for a species so small? But Ral's words carried weight, and Tom's example gave them pause. Some remembered humans they had met long ago, brave in trade or in battle. Slowly, replies came back. One ship pledged support. Then another. Then more. Tom listened as the signals arrived. Each time, hope grew in his chest. He had felt alone when his ship was lost, but now he saw something greater forming. The galaxy might have ignored humans, but not all hearts were blind. Still, Ral knew the danger. The Empire would not forgive betrayal. They would crush anyone who stood in their path. But for the first time, Ral felt the fire of a cause larger than duty. He looked at Tom and said quietly, "We will stand with Earth. But understand this, once we begin, there is no return." Tom met his gaze without fear. "Then let us begin." In that moment, a promise was made between human and alien. The rescue of one life had grown into the defense of an entire world. And though the path ahead was full of shadows, the bond of trust burned bright. The stars outside the window no longer felt cold. They were no longer distant. They were waiting for a war that would decide not just the fate of Earth, but the measure of humanity itself. Ral stood on the command deck, looking at the glowing maps of nearby systems. Every pulse of light represented a ship, a crew, a decision waiting to be made. The Norran patrol could not fight the Empire alone. They needed allies. Allies who had once doubted humans, allies who might yet answer the call. He turned to Tom, who was quietly watching the stars. "You have shown us courage," Ral said. "Now it is time to show the galaxy that humans are worth saving. We will call others to join us. But understand, Tom, not all will answer." Tom's voice was steady. "Then we will find those who will. One is enough to begin." Ral nodded and began sending coded transmissions. Hidden channels, old contacts, retired captains, anyone who had seen the Empire's cruelty and remembered the price of silence. The messages were simple. A human world is in danger. They are stronger than the galaxy believes. Join us or stand aside. At first, replies were slow. Many dismissed the call as fear or exaggeration. Some laughed at the idea of defending humans. "Why fight for a small species?" one captain asked. "They are weak and scattered." Ral's hand pressed the console, sending more proof. Tom's story, details of Earth, the bravery of a human surviving alone in the void. Slowly, doubts began to stir among the listeners. If one human could survive against impossible odds, perhaps the species had hidden strength. Within days, responses began to arrive. A small reconnaissance ship pledged to monitor enemy movements. Another sent word of supplies and weapons they could spare. One by one, hidden allies joined, forming a quiet but growing force. Tom watched the incoming messages with wide eyes. "You mean, more ships? More people?" Ral smiled slightly. "Yes. Some of them remember humans. Some are curious. Some believe in what you have shown us. Together, we are more than one patrol." The patrol crew worked quickly. Plans were drawn, positions set, and strategies tested. Each new ship that joined brought hope and strength. Human or alien, old or young, all were now part of the growing movement. One night, as they prepared for the first coordinated jump, Tom sat beside Ral on the command deck. The stars outside seemed brighter than ever. "I never thought anyone would fight for us," Tom said softly. "Not the galaxy. Not anyone." Ral placed a hand on his shoulder. "You reminded them why it matters. One life saved became many lives worth protecting. Courage spreads faster than fear, Tom." Tom nodded. He looked at the growing fleet on the display. Each dot of light was a promise, a choice to stand for something greater. "Then Earth, maybe it has a chance." Ral studied him. "More than a chance. With you, it has purpose. With them, it has strength." Training and preparation became constant. The crew practiced maneuvers, coordinated jumps, and emergency responses. Humans on Earth had never seen such an alliance forming above their skies. Every new ship brought more knowledge, more firepower, more hope. The young officers, who had doubted the human before, now looked at Tom with respect. They copied his determination, his endurance, his refusal to give up even when things seemed impossible. His spirit had become a symbol. Even among the older, hardened officers, a quiet admiration grew. They had seen warriors from many worlds, yet few displayed the same combination of courage and loyalty. Humans were not the strongest in muscle or technology, but they fought with a heart that could inspire an entire fleet. As the days passed, the alliance grew into a network of ships ready to defend Earth. Each ship carried its own story, its own reason for joining. Some had seen humans fight in distant skirmishes. Some remembered old promises. Some simply believed in the message Tom had carried: humans were worth saving. Ral stood once more on the command deck, looking at the fleet now scattered across the systems. "We have called them," he said. Some answered. Some will not. But what matters is that we move forward. Earth will not face the Empire alone. Tom looked out at the distant lights. His chest filled with hope. One day, they will see. Humans are not weak. We fight not for glory, but for home. And now, we are not alone. Ral's eyes narrowed with resolve. The next step will be the hardest. The Empire will not wait. We must prepare to face them. But for the first time, we stand not as one patrol, not as one species, but as many, united for a cause that cannot be ignored. The stars stretched on endlessly, but among them shone a fleet unlike any before. Humans may have seemed small to the galaxy, but with courage, loyalty, and unexpected allies, they were no longer alone. The warning had become a call. The rescue of one human had become the defense of many. And the battle for Earth was about to begin. The first flashes of the rival empire's fleet appeared on the scanners before dawn. Thousands of ships moved in tight formation, dark against the stars. The Norran patrol, the small fleet that had answered Ral's call, lined up in defense. Every ship was tense, every crew member alert. Tom stood on Ral's bridge, staring at the approaching threat. His heart pounded, but his expression was steady. "They are strong," he said, "but they do not know Earth fights in a different way." Ral studied him. "Explain." Tom pointed at the display of ships. "Humans fight for home. For family. For people who cannot fight. We do not give up. Ever. You will see." The fleet jumped closer. Alarms rang, warning of the enemy's approach. Missiles flared in the distance, a warning shot. The first line of attack had begun. Ral gave orders quickly. Ships moved into positions around Earth's orbit, forming a protective ring. Human defense satellites activated. Earth's own small fleets joined the line, and together with the Norran and allied ships, a wall of resistance took shape. The enemy fired first. Massive beams of energy tore through space, striking empty fields where the fleet had predicted the attacks. Tom shouted commands learned from his human training. "Evade left. Brace shields." His instincts were sharp. Even the Norran crew, experts in battle strategy, found themselves following his quick decisions. Tom's knowledge of human tactics, combined with his courage, became the spark that guided them through the first strike. The battle grew fiercer as the enemy closed. Fighters darted between larger warships, exchanging fire. Explosions lit the darkness of space like violent stars. Tom's human instincts, timing, risk-taking, endurance helped the fleet survive repeated attacks. Even when missiles struck near, he remained calm, directing the movement of ships with surprising skill. One fighter pilot, a young Norran named Lyra, called out, "We cannot hold them much longer." Tom leaned over the console. "Yes, you can. Trust your crew. Trust yourself. Move together, not alone. Hit their gaps." Lyra followed his advice. The fighter slipped between two enemy ships, firing accurately. The attack destroyed the smaller enemy vessels, opening a path for larger ships to advance. Tom's eyes glowed with determination as he watched the tide begin to turn. Ral glanced at him with admiration. "I underestimated humans," he said quietly. Tom only shook his head. "You saw one human. Humans are many, and we fight together." As the battle raged, Earth's surface lit with flashes from defensive lasers. Cities held their breath, unaware of the quiet hope in orbit. Tom's voice carried over comms, giving encouragement to human pilots who had never flown outside their home system. "Keep fighting. You protect more than land. You protect hope." The enemy faltered. Their formation became scattered as the Allied fleet adapted to their moves. Tom directed strikes with precision, coordinating attacks that combined human daring and alien technology. Each move inspired the Norran crew and the other allies, showing them that even the seemingly weak could strike with power. Hours passed. The enemy retreated from Earth's orbit, unable to break the defense line. Cheers erupted aboard the ships. Humans and aliens alike had survived the impossible. Tom stood beside Ral, exhausted but triumphant. Ral placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were right, Tom. Humans fight differently. They fight with heart." Tom looked at the retreating fleet. "It is not over. The Empire will return. But today, we showed them that Earth does not fall easily." As the Allied fleet regrouped, Tom's eyes wandered to the blue planet below. Cities shone faintly in the darkness, forests swayed in wind currents, and oceans reflected the light of distant stars. Earth was still home. Still alive. Ral smiled at him. "You have changed the galaxy's view of your kind. One human was rescued. Now all of humanity stands because of courage, and because others saw it and chose to fight." Tom nodded. "One life can inspire many. Today, we saved Earth, but tomorrow, maybe the galaxy will see humans differently." The battle for Earth had been won, but the war was not over. Yet hope now burned brighter than any laser. Humanity had allies who respected their courage. Humanity had humans who refused to give up. And most importantly, humanity had the chance to survive and rise stronger. The Norran patrol, the Allied fleet, and Tom looked toward the stars. They knew the Empire would return, but they also knew that humans, once seen as weak, would not be defeated. Earth had survived its first test. And its defenders, both human and alien, were ready for the next. The galaxy was quiet again, but the silence was different now. It was not empty or threatening. It was filled with the memory of courage, of defiance, of a human who had refused to give up. Tom stood on the command deck of Ral's ship, looking down at Earth. The planet below glowed softly with life, oceans and forests shimmering under the sun's light. Ral joined him silently. "Earth is safe for now," he said. "But do you understand what has changed?" Tom turned, his eyes burning with determination. "Yes. One human was saved before. That was me. But now, everyone matters. Every person, every life, is worth the fight. Ral nodded. The galaxy will remember today. Humans are not weak. They fight for home. They fight for each other. And we fought with you. Tom smiled, thinking of the fleet, the allies who had joined their cause, and the bravery of humans who had flown into the battle even without experience. Each act of courage had been small alone, but together they had formed a force strong enough to repel the Empire. The news of Earth's defense spread quickly. Messages traveled faster than fleets. Stories of the battle reached distant systems. Other species began to question the assumptions they had held about humans. Many who had once dismissed the small blue planet now saw a species capable of resilience, endurance, and loyalty unlike any they had encountered. Ral called a meeting with the Allied fleet. Every captain, human and alien alike, gathered in the communication link. Tom stood beside Ral as the lights of Earth reflected in his eyes. Ral addressed the group. The Empire underestimated humanity. They will try again. But today, we have shown that humans are not alone. We have fought together, and together we have proven their worth. One of the alien captains spoke. We have seen humans in battle. We have seen their courage. It is different from any other race. Their hearts guide their actions. We will stand with them, should the Empire return. Tom's chest swelled with pride. Thank you. You fought for Earth not because you had to, but because you chose to. That is what makes humans strong, the power to inspire even others to fight for what is right. In the following days, Ral and his crew helped coordinate defenses and shared knowledge of the galaxy with human leaders. Tom acted as a bridge between the two groups, translating, teaching, and encouraging. The humans learned quickly, adopting new strategies and technologies. They were still small, still inexperienced in galactic warfare, but they had determination, and determination was powerful. For Tom, the memory of being alone in space faded. He remembered the day he was rescued from the pod, the cold metal and the darkness, and he realized how far he had come. One life saved had led to thousands protected. One choice of mercy had led to the unity of many. Ral stood beside him again, looking at Earth. Do you think the galaxy will now treat humans differently? Tom smiled softly. Not all will. Some will still see us as small, weak. But others, they will remember today. They will remember that humans fight with heart, that we protect what we love, and that we never give up. A small group of human pilots gathered outside the window, celebrating quietly, sharing smiles and laughter. Their courage had inspired their allies, and the Norran crew had seen it too. For the first time, humans were not just survivors, they were warriors in their own right. Ral placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. You have changed the galaxy, Tom. Not with weapons, not with power, but with courage and example. You have shown that life, even small, can make a difference when it refuses to be ignored. Tom looked down at the planet again. We did it together. Humans and aliens. One life saved, and now many lives protected. This is only the beginning. One day, maybe the galaxy will see humans as we see ourselves, not weak, but determined, resilient, and worthy of respect. The sun rose over Earth, spilling golden light across forests and oceans. Ships from the Allied fleet returned to their patrols, but the bond between species remained. The story of one human, saved from the void, had grown into the story of all humanity. The galaxy had learned a lesson: courage, loyalty, and the will to protect home cannot be measured in size or strength. Tom stood silently, feeling the weight and promise of what had happened. They saved one human, he whispered, remembering the day Ral had reached for him in the pod. And now, they came back for all of us. Ral smiled. And they will return if needed. Because now, humans are not alone. As the fleet slowly disappeared among the stars, Earth remained safe, watched over by those who had learned to respect its people. Tom looked to the horizon, knowing that the challenge was not over, but that humanity had proved itself. One life had been saved. Many lives had been protected. And in the heart of the galaxy, humans had earned their place. The stars shone brighter that night, as if celebrating the courage of a species once overlooked. Humanity had survived, humanity had inspired, and humanity had shown that even the smallest flame could shine across the darkness. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again.